There's a moment in space, right before a ship finishes docking, when silence isn't just quiet. It's judgment. It weighs on you, measures you. And that moment stretched as the Zephyr Ark locked into orbit above the Syrian moon, Nuvara. Commander Irel Vonn, human, former pilot. Now a diplomatic courier assigned to things far above my pay grade. And today that meant ferrying a Zalari emissary through the Veiled Reach, neutral territory with a reputation for shredding alliances. Like tissue in a plasma storm. I'd read the brief twice. The Zalari were aquatic origin, semi-symbiotic, and communicated via color shifts and psionic resonance. Sounded lovely. Messy, too. What it didn't say? Whether they found humans repulsive, amusing, or edible. When the bay doors slid open, I expected something vaguely horrifying. Instead, she walked in, or rather, floated. The gravity adjusted, and in came this creature, tall, fluid, luminous. Her skin shimmered like bio-oil under moonlight. From her back flowed 6 long tendrils, each tipped with a bioluminescent flare. Her face was human enough to recognize emotion, alien enough to unsettle it. She bowed her head slightly. My designation is Thalra-Ni of the iridescent trine. I tried not to stare at the way her tentacles moved, like underwater flame. Then, against every instinct I had as a trained officer, I said the dumbest thing imaginable. Your tentacles look great today. There was a pause. The kind of silence that tastes like panic. Then one of her tendrils curled upward, pulsing teal and soft gold. That is a mating phrase on my world, I blinked. I meant it as a compliment. I am aware, she replied. It was received as both. We departed Nuvara's orbit 10 minutes later, but her reaction stayed in my head longer than I care to admit. Thalra-Ni moved through the ship like she belonged to it, sensing the curves of its hull, tracing vibrations in the floor like music. She wasn't just intelligent. She was built for environments we barely understood. Over the course of the first few hours, she said little, observed much. Then, while we drifted between 2 red dwarf stars, she spoke again. You are curious about my physiology? I choked on my recaf. That's not... Well, maybe. No shame in fascination, she said. Curiosity is a compliment, too. You've got a generous definition of flirting. Flirting? She tilted her head. The human method of expressing intent while hiding it. I laughed, despite myself. Something like that. Then her tendrils shifted color. Deep lavender, edged in frost blue. Do you flirt with everyone you transport? No. Just the ones who can kill me with a thought. Her eyes narrowed, playfully, I think. And yet, you keep talking. Maybe I like danger. And maybe, she said, moving closer, danger likes you back. Just before our halfway mark, the proximity alarm blared. A debris cloud surged from the edge of a dead zone. No signal, no origin, no warning. I hit evasive. Thrusts. Thalra-Ni moved like liquid toward the sensor readout, her hands hovering over the console. She didn't touch anything, but the lights bent around her fingers. The readings scrambled, then reformed. This isn't natural, she whispered. It's laced. Laced? I asked. With intentions. The debris wasn't just junk. It was seeded with dark matter fragments designed to disable our ship's energy grid without triggering standard shields. A trap. I banked hard, burning thrusters, forcing the Zephyr Ark into a spiral ascent. The outer hull hissed with static from grazing the edge of the trap. Thalra-Ni's skin dimmed, her tendrils drawing in like flower petals at night. We're being watched. By who? She didn't answer. 2 hours later, the stars outside seemed to grow quieter. I checked the navigational AI. No new threats? It responded in a flat monotone. Define threat. The AI never joked. I looked at Thalra-Ni. Her back was to me, tendrils coiled tightly. You feel it too, don't you? She turned. Her eyes, silver-flecked and dark, as gas giants met mine. There's something on this ship that didn't board with us, and just like that, the air grew thinner. Later that cycle, she came to my quarters. No formalities. "We need to link," she said. "Come again?" "Mind to mind. Brief. We must sense what the intruder cannot." That's invasive. And survival isn't? I sat down, pulse thrumming like a reactor core. "Fine, but you go first." She placed one hand on my temple, another over my chest. I saw fire. I saw oceans too deep for sunlight. I saw memories of her birth. Bubbles of life woven into coral-like structures. Music made from the spinning of moons. Her planet was so alive it breathed poetry. Then she saw me. Not what I told people I was, but the broken parts. The day I lost. My wingman. The lie I told to save my own reputation. The dream I had when I was 17, of marrying someone who understood silence without fearing it. When the connection broke, she exhaled sharply. "Irel," she said. "They want me to betray you." "Who?" She looked past me, not afraid, just heartbroken. "My own people." I couldn't sleep after the mind link, not because I was afraid of her, but because I wasn't. Thalra-Ni sat in the observation chamber, gazing out at a string of pale stars like she was remembering someone, or mourning them. Her tendrils rested along the floor like sleeping serpents, their bioluminescence dimming with her breath. I stood in the doorway, unsure if I was intruding or needed to be there. She spoke without turning. "The stars are quieter in this sector." "Quieter?" I asked. "They grieve in frequencies only my kind hear." That silence again. The kind that weighed. I took a seat beside her. "So," I said, voice low, "your own people want you. To sabotage the treaty?" "Yes," she replied, "but not for reasons your species would assume." "Enlighten me." Thalra-Ni turned, her voice a ripple over still water. "This treaty was arranged by the 9 depth courts, but not all." "Agreed. Some believe peace makes us weak. Others fear integration with humans would dilute our essence." "You don't agree?" "I don't know what I believe anymore. That hit deeper than I expected." We moved through the ship together, side by side. She began to trust me with systems she wouldn't even let Dex, the onboard AI, interact with. Our conversations blurred the line between duty and something else, something heavier. Then, somewhere past orbit X7 Juno, Dex spoke again. "Commander, internal energy readings are erratic. Recommend inspection of biofiltration ducts. Thalra-Ni." Stiffened. "That's close to the coolant drive," she whispered. I nodded. "Let's not go alone." We took flash pistols and a pulse scanner. The ducts ran like arteries behind the main life support grid, tight, echo-prone, and about 3 degrees too cold. Halfway through the second junction, the lights flickered. Not a normal flicker, a rhythmic one, a pulse. "Do you hear that?" I asked. Thalra-Ni didn't respond. Her tendrils had all frozen mid-air. Then I heard it too. A heartbeat. But not mine. Not hers, something else. We followed it, through corridors that seemed longer than they were. Time felt elastic, warped. And then we saw it. A section of the ship's wall, breathing. Yes, breathing. The surface flexed in and out like a lung, rippling faintly with veins of light. As we approached, a thin membrane slid open. Inside, a cocoon, organic, dark green, oozing, suspended mid-air. "That is not Zalari," Thalra-Ni whispered. I raised my scanner. The reading didn't even compute. It just read, "Lifeform designation, unrecognized intelligence, unknown danger, level." High suddenly the cocoon split, outpoured mist, cold, bone-sharp mist, and from it a figure stepped forward. It was humanoid, vaguely, slender limbs, elongated joints, face covered in a lattice of glistening black tissue like glass armor. Its voice came before its mouth opened. "Irel Vonn, Thalra-Ni." You both reek of indecision. It knew us. That was the moment I realized something chilling. This thing wasn't just hiding on our ship. It had been waiting for us. What are you? I asked, pulse hammering. I am called Mavericks, created by neither your species nor hers, birthed from the rift between suns. I am the balance breaker. Thalra-Ni stepped forward, shield half raised. You are not real. You were erased during the War of the Unnamed. The creature tilted its head. Erased from record, not from existence, and then it lunged. I fired. Thalra-Ni flared. Her tentacles snapped like lightning across the space between us and Mavericks, striking him mid-air. He absorbed the hit and kept coming. Thalra threw her body between me and the strike. The blow hit her shoulder, and for the first time since I met. Her! She screamed. I grabbed her and activated the emergency blast seal, sealing the corridor and launching a fire pulse through the wall. Mavericks vanished in the explosion, or maybe just retreated. I carried her back to medbay. Her skin had dulled. Her breathing labored. Dex tried to stabilize her vitals, but he couldn't make sense of her biology. She needed saltwater immersion, not pressure stims. I had one option. The moon pool tank in engineering. It wasn't meant for organics. It was meant for fuel cell filtration. But I didn't care. In the dark glow of the tank, her body floated, healing. I sat beside it for hours, unsure if she was dreaming or deciding whether to wake up. When she finally did, her eyes locked on mine. Yukfar. Saved me, she whispered. You've got terrible timing. I was just about to try artificial CPR with no idea where your heart is. A weak smile formed on her lips. My heart is where yours looks when it forgets to pretend. That night I couldn't sleep. Again. Not because of fear, but because of the way she'd looked at me before she closed her eyes. Not alien, not envoy, just someone who didn't want to be alone anymore. I didn't say it out loud, but I thought it. Your tentacles still look great today. And somewhere in the dark I could swear she heard me. The next morning, if you can call anything morning in deep space, Dex informed me that all outgoing transmissions had been jammed. Not externally, internally. Someone on board was silencing our signal tree. Thalra, I said as she emerged, from the immersion tank. If you've got any ancient alien instincts about betrayal, now's the time to use them. She looked at me through still wet strands of bioluminescent hair. Instinct is clouded when the heart interferes. And yours is interfering? Yes. That should have scared me. It didn't. We checked the transmitter grid near the ship's dorsal relay. Thalra's tendrils hovered near the controls, glowing faint lavender. That's a warning color? I asked. No, it's caution. I nodded. So, like human nervous sweating, but prettier. She didn't smile. She was staring at something. A wire. Thin. Carbon black. It had been surgically attached to the relay. She touched it. Pain rippled through the entire deck. Alarms screamed. Gravity collapsed for half a second. Then the entire relay grid shut down. Someone rerouted our location pings, she said, voice tightening. They're leaking our route. Every jump, every blind sector, this was a kill beacon. Before I could respond, Dex chimed in again. Commander, 2 incoming vessels. No flags. High energy signatures. ETA. 4 minutes. We ran. The bridge was already prepping evasive maneuvers. Dex had activated blind warp protocols, but they needed 5 minutes to spool up. We had 4, and then she turned to me. There's something I didn't tell you. I'd be shocked if you had, I muttered. My species didn't just send me to negotiate, she said, eyes shimmering cold silver. They sent me to test loyalty. Yours, humanity's. You were never meant to know. But now, we're being hunted, I finished. So your experiment's over. No, she whispered. Now it's real. The enemy ships weren't ships. Not exactly. They were organic shells. Living vessels pulsing like deep-sea predators, mouths lined with railguns and skin like mirrored bone. I'd seen those in old war files. The viroxins. Genetically spliced mercenaries bred for extinction events. Thought they were extinct themselves. Why would the viroxins be tracking you? I asked. Thalra's eyes darkened. Because I carry something no one else does. Then she opened her hand. In her palm, a sphere. Clear. Small. Beating like a slow heart. Inside it, a fragment of something ancient. Something singing. Is that a star map? No. It's a seed. Of the origin pulse. The code that formed my people. And now they want it. They want to rewrite it. Turn it into a virus. Evolve themselves beyond extinction. I stared at the blinking nav controls. 1 minute left. We were out of time. The first viroxin shell latched onto our hull. The ship groaned as its claws pierced the outer ring. One of the internal lights exploded. Dex lost control of the second engine pod. They're inside, he said. 3 hostiles, armed, fast. We split up. Thalra slithered through the corridor vents, faster than any soldier. I took the weapons grid and rerouted emergency fire lines into choke points. By the time I reached cargo hold 4, the viroxins were already tearing into the doors. I was ready to go down fighting, but she wasn't. Thalra dropped from the ceiling like lightning wrapped in silk. She didn't fight like a warrior. She fought like a force of nature. Her tendrils pulsed, wrapped, struck with mathematical grace. Her hands never hesitated. One of the viroxins shattered like a glass spider. The other tried to flee. She caught him mid-leap and pressed a single fingertip to his chest. He convulsed, then disintegrated. I stared. Remind me never to compliment your tentacles sarcastically. Breathing hard, she turned to me. They won't stop. I stepped forward. Then we won't either. The final jump cycle initiated. As the ship roared to life, I set the destination for the one place I swore never to return, Aravex Station, deep in outlaw territory. No one followed protocol there, but it was the only place left that still had tech old enough to decode a seed like hers without attracting the attention of every power faction in the galaxy. As we stabilized, she turned to me. You were never supposed to matter, Irel. Yeah, I replied. That's been going around a lot lately. Do you know what happens if they get the seed? We all go extinct, right? She nodded. Then we better be harder to kill than the last species they erased. The stars outside twisted into lines. We jumped, but something followed us, even across folded light. That night, I watched her sleep for a moment. Not creepily, just silently. Her tendrils rested over her chest like a living blanket. Her glow had returned. So had something else. Peace. And maybe, just maybe, the start of a war. Because somewhere behind those half-closed eyes, I saw her dreaming. And I don't think the dreams were hers anymore. Aravex Station wasn't built. It grew like rust around a forgotten blade. Jagged towers of retrofitted wreckage jutted from a fractured asteroid belt. Pirate clans, tech cults, exiled engineers all called it home. No laws, no questions. And definitely no safe landings. I spun the Zephyr Arc into descent while Thalra-Ni stood at the viewport, her fingers tapping rhythmic pulses against the glass. She was reading the station's energy. It pulsed like a dying heart. Unstable, but familiar. This place, she said, feels like regret. That's Aravex, I muttered. Regret wearing armor. We docked at Port Sector 9, a shipyard disguised as a scrapyard. 100 different species moved like scavengers across the lot. One wrong blink, and you'd get a plasma knife. In the back, I stashed the seed fragment inside a dermal casing implanted in my forearm. Not because I didn't trust her, but because trust meant letting someone else take the shot. Thalra covered her glow with a shimmer cloak. She looked almost human, except for the way her eyes still caught every lie in the room. I know someone, I said, walking fast. Old contact, bit insane, brilliant enough to crack the seed open without triggering a war. What's his name? Firax drove human once. Now, something else. We found Firax inside a bar grown from fungal scaffolding. It smelled like spice, blood, and bad choices. Firax had replaced half his body with chromed bone and whisper tech. His voice came from a speaker in his throat that clicked before each syllable. Irel Vonn. You brought a ghost to my bar? She's not a ghost. She's an emissary. He squinted at her. She's also royalty, if I'm not mistaken. Iridescent trine blood. They don't mingle with carriers like you. Thalra didn't flinch. I'll destroy your memory of that sentence. If you finish it. He chuckled. I like her. What do you want? I showed him the casing. We need to unlock the seed without alerting every surveillance grid in the galaxy. He stared at it, then at me, then at her. You have no idea what you're carrying, do you? Try me, I said. Firax leaned in close. His breath reeked of burnt metal and rum. That seed is not just Zalari origin code, it's pre-source. That's tech from before time was measured, before species, before thought. You didn't bring a key, Irel. You brought a god's whisper. He plugged it into a chamber built from old quantum ghost drives and living coral. The room dimmed. Reality shifted. We saw it. The seed bloomed, not into light but into language. A spoken DNA, a tapestry of species that never were, would never be, and yet somehow existed. And then it stopped. Everything. The station froze. The lights died, and from the edge of Firax's scanners came a whisper. You opened the door. 3 Viroxan bioships descended on the station within minutes, but this time they didn't come to kill. They came to speak. Their leader entered the chamber, black glass skin cracking with heat. I am Velrix. We followed the signal. We felt the awakening. And now we claim what is owed. Thalra stood between him and the seed. You will not rewrite the source, Velrix hissed. We will not rewrite it. We will become it. This is evolution's end. No, I said, stepping forward. This is where evolution decides who deserves to go on. He reached for the seed. Thalra's tendrils struck first. The room exploded into violence. Firax vanished in a flash of teleport smoke. I lunged for the casing, diving behind a hull plate as plasma screamed past my head. Thalra and Velrix clashed like myth. Light against silence, grace against hunger. She wasn't fighting to win. She was fighting to protect something ancient, something sacred. I crawled toward the control panel Firax had used. One button still glowed. Seed return protocol requires host selection. Irel! Thalra shouted. It must be you! Why me? Because your species hasn't chosen a path yet. I hit the button. The seed pulsed, and in a split second, it entered me. I saw everything. Galaxies folding like petals, creatures made of song, worlds that burned before birth. I saw Thalra as she truly was, not just alien, not just royalty, but designed for unity. I also saw Velrix's future, a future of extinction, because evolution didn't want conquerors. It wanted bridges. I woke up on the bridge of the Zephyr Arc. Thalra stood over me, smiling faintly. The seed was gone. Where? What happened? You accepted the burden, she said. You became its choice. You gave it back to the universe. And the Viroxans, she looked away. The seed judged them. Silence. Then a breath. Irel, she said quietly. You saw what I am. What I was made to be. So tell me now, if I ask you again, does the compliment still stand? I stared at her, every memory flashing behind my eyes, every sacrifice, every truth. And I smiled. Your tentacles still look great today. She leaned in, glowing softly. That's still a mating phrase. I know, I whispered, and somewhere, far beyond known space, the stars whispered back. Because something had changed, not just in me, not just in her, but in everything. And it all started with a stupid compliment.